All right, good morning, everybody. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order at it's 9:59 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll begin with our convening statement.
Before we begin, translation services are available free of charge upon request. Antes de que comencemos, servicios de traducción de forma gratuita son disponibles bajo petición. Benton-Franklin Council of Governments was established by a voluntary association of local units of government in 1966 with the vision of providing a forum for improved communication, multi-jurisdictional decision-making, regional planning, and the capacity to serve as lead agency in providing multi-jurisdictional programs. The services provided to the member jurisdictions are outlined by interlocal agreement and can evolve with the needs of the region. BFCOG currently fulfills the following designations on behalf of the Benton-Franklin region: Regional Planning Commission, Conference of Governments, Regional Transportation Planning Organization, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Transportation Management Area, and Economic Development District. The BFCOG Board of Directors simultaneously serves as the governing body for the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, Benton-Franklin Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board, Benton-Franklin Walla Walla Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and Benton-Franklin Economic Development District. We share this information at the beginning of each board meeting to provide context to the information shared and the actions taken during the meeting. Before we begin,
Go ahead and move on to roll call.
Hey, Benton-Franklin Transit.
Brian Lubansky.
Benton County. Okay. All right, Ben.
Yes.
City of Connell. City of Kennewick. City of Pasco.
Charles Grimm.
City of Prosser.
Marcelo Sanchez.
City of Richland.
Todd Samuel.
City of West Richland.
Kate Moran, present.
Franklin County.
Stephen Bellman.
Port of Benton. Port of Kennewick.
Skip Levakovich.
Port of Pasco.
Vicky Gordon.
And Washtenaw South Central.
Brian White.
Okay, you have one.
All right, thank you. And do we have any guests present today here or online?
Yes, we do, but we'll introduce Kevin before he speaks.
All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and we have our agenda here before us. Are there any changes, modifications to today's agenda?
No.
And do we have a motion to approve our agenda as written?
Approve the agenda as presented. Second.
All right, motion's been, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you. Agenda has been approved. And do we have any public comment at this meeting today? We have any comment? Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our first presentation of the day. We have Kevin Sliger here from Benton-Franklin Transit.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Sliger, Chief Planning and Development Officer with Benton-Franklin Transit. Also joined here today by Brian Lubansky, who is our interim Chief Executive Officer. So today we're going to be going into the state of the transit. We'll be digging into what BFT has been up to the past year, what we're looking forward to, and digging into our ridership and how that's been trending up. So we can start the presentation.
Oops, sorry. That was me. Okay.
All right, so Benton-Franklin Transit provides public transit services in Benton-Franklin counties. We are considered a large urban system. There's 6 large urban systems in the state of Washington, and we are one of them. Our population and the way the Tri-Cities has grown is a little bit different from the other large urban areas, but again, we are considered a large urban area in the eyes of the state. We're funded through local sales tax and various state and federal grants. We serve a population of around 290,000, and we have a service area of 625 square miles. So BFT has been operating since 1982, and we're looking to be the main public service provider going into the future. So the services we provide are our fixed route, or really just our bus system. Currently, we have 22 routes that serve Benton City, Findlay, Kennewick, Prosser, Pasco, Richland, and West Richland. We also have our complimentary dial-a-ride service, and by complimentary, I mean it complements the fixed route service. There is still a fare associated with that service. So this is a door-to-door transportation with individuals who have or whose disabilities prevent them from using the fixed route system. We also have a general demand service in Prosser and Benton City. This is a point-to-point service that you have subscription trips to. And again, that's only in Benton City and Prosser because that model works a little bit better in the less dense rural areas. We have our rideshare program, which you may know as Vanpool. We call it rideshare now, but it really works the exact same way in that anywhere from 3 to 15 people can come together, decide to join a group, and it can greatly reduce their costs, their commute costs. And then we have our Connect service. This is what's referred to as micro transit in the transit industry. It's an on-demand service. It differs from general demand in that it is on demand. You don't have to have a pre-subscription. And really the purpose of this service is to reach areas that aren't directly served by our fixed route. So through an app, you can hail a ride, they'll pick you up and drop you off at a bus stop or a transit center. So in the transit industry, we call this first last mile, right? We need to provide a service that can make it easy for people to access our services and again, facilitate that first last mile trip. So I know this is a little bit small, but this shows our total service area or our public transportation benefit area. I listed off the cities we serve earlier. So Benton County makes up the majority of our service area. About 92% of the land area is within Benton County, but that service area does extend across the river to Pasco, which makes up about 8% of our service areas. So this is a very complex map, right? But I wanted to show that intentionally because it shows how we layer all of our services on top of each other. So we know that people have multiple ways of getting around. So what you see up here is the main part of our service area. I mentioned the 625 square mile service area, but actually the majority of that is made up by the Hanford site. So about 200 square miles includes the cities we serve directly. Now I can say our rideshare program that I mentioned earlier, about 50% of the groups that use that service use it to access the Hanford site. So it's a main mode of commute for folks who live up or work up in the Hanford area. So a brief overview of our agency. We have 71 buses. That number is fluctuating from time to time, but at any given time, the maximum amount of buses we have on the road at the moment is 56. So for our 96, or our fleet of dial-a-ride, we have 96 vehicles and 201 rideshare vehicles. We did just add some vehicles to the rideshare fleet, so I think we're actually right around 210 right now. We have over 850 bus stops across our fixed route network, 6 transit centers, and 9 owned facilities. Last year, we did over 300 or 3.5 million trips, so that's across all of our routes. But the majority of those trips occurred on our bus network. So we saw about 2.8 million trips alone in 2025 on our fixed route bus. So I wanted to dig down a little into ridership over the past 2 years. We saw substantial growth in 2024, and that trend of growth continued in 2025. Typically throughout the year, we see fluctuating ridership, with May and October being our highest ridership months. And in total, we saw about a 3% increase over 2024 in 2020. So today I wanted to focus on our long-range transit plan. So many of you may have heard about this, even been given presentations about our long-range transit plan. This was a 2-year process where we worked with the jurisdictions and public to compile information and put together a plan that would have a 20-year outlook. Plan here was to make sure that we're coordinated with all the jurisdictions we serve. Each of the jurisdictions, including the counties, need to put together a comprehensive plan, which they're, I believe, are all going through that process right now. That's a 20-year outlook, and we wanted something that can coincide with that outlook. So the main tenets of this plan include getting the service right. So we want to be sure that we have our finger on the pulse of our services when people are riding, and we can allocate our resources effectively and efficiently, and make sure that our services are as productive as possible. Also working better together. This is one of the main points of the plan, and definitely pertinent to this board. We want to make sure that we, as the transit agency, are coordinating with all the jurisdictions as effectively as possible. And I think that's really important, because if we're not siloed and we're working together, it makes the public dollar go a lot further. So that's what we want to focus on. And that really rolls into the making every dollar count, right? Everything we do, we need to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible. So with that, I wanted to go a little bit into the actual process, right? Because this was about a 2-year process that culminated in the adoption of the long-range transit plan about 2 months ago. So really, we started with data collection and analysis. We needed to understand our services, where people are riding, how efficient we're being. And then we rolled on to the public information and outreach. So we had multiple public outreach events that spanned about 1.5 years. This included various survey efforts. And then from there, we needed to assess the needs and gaps of not only our agency, but the area that we serve. And then from there, we compiled a project list, further evaluated. So the long-range transit plan survey results, again, I apologize. This is a very detailed slide here, but really what we set out to do when we started our survey process was get information from everyone, right? Not just the folks who ride our services. We have, a pretty consistent surveying process to get information from our riders. So it was important to understand the folks who occasionally ride or don't ride at all, what are their needs, so we can adjust our services to try and attract what we call choice riders, right? We want our system to work for those who depend on our services, but we also want to make it work for those who may choose to ride, so we can grow ridership and reduce congestion. So on the right here, you can see the number, or really a ranked list there of the priorities for survey results. So one of the main things people were saying is they want buses to run later at night. Now, we currently run till 10 p.m. About a decade ago, we were only running till 6 p.m. and we slowly crept those hours up. I think, that late night service is adequate at the moment, but it is something that the community is asking for. So we need to understand what that need is, and we'll continue to dig into that. Some of the other things that have been requested are buses that run more frequently. So we always say frequency is freedom in the transit industry. I always like to use the example of if you lived in a house and you had a gate at the end of your driveway and it only opened up every 30 minutes or an hour, really that is folks who depend on transit, that's their daily life, right? So if that gate opened every 15 minutes or every 10 minutes, they'd have way more access to jobs and way more of an ability to participate. So again, the long range transit plan, the main purpose was understanding our riders, what they need, understanding the jurisdictions and what they need from us and how we can better those partnerships, and then making sure we're efficient with the dollars we spend. So I wanted to go over our capital projects. We have a robust capital plan and many projects coming up. Our 22nd Avenue Transit Center is one of our main projects that we're focusing on right now. The current facility is well past its useful life, and so we're looking to invest to make it a regional hub. And that is currently just about to kick off the final design phase. We're also working on a facilities maintenance building on our campus there off the Columbia Park Trail. So this is just further expanding our capabilities to maintain our facilities. We've done a lot of work on bus stops over the years, and we just built a new operations building. And as we grow, that facilities team will grow along with it. The Huntington Training Facility is also a project that we're looking to implement. Our Huntington Transit Center, which is now defunct off of Huntington and Clearwater and Kennewick, is currently used for storage, but we're looking to potentially use that for a training facility. That being said, we are reassessing that project right now to see how we could potentially do it in a more efficient way. So the West Pasco Transit Center, this is a state-funded project. We've been looking for a site for this location, and that's currently where we're at. And this would be essentially a transit center and park and ride facility in the Broadmoor area. We know that's the fastest growing area of Pasco, so we want to make sure that we're out ahead of that growth and we can really establish a presence there prior to that growth. Our frequent service corridor project is focused on improving infrastructure along all of our services that have 15-minute service or better. So that's our routes 1, our 2X, which is an express route from Ninth Street to Pasco, and then our route 3, which serves mostly downtown Kennewick and downtown Pasco. So again, the focus here is making sure we have adequate and accessible bus stops along this route. I think transit visibility is key to attracting ridership, right? The more information and you have at a bus stop and the more amenities you have, the more accessible they are. So I think there's a lot of coordination that we're going to be doing with the cities on this project. And, we're improving the area of the bus stop itself, but we're also making sure the path to those bus stops are accessible as well. And in doing so, we make all your jurisdictions more accessible as well. And last but not least, our bus stop and amenities program. So I did mention bus stop improvements along the frequent service corridor, but we have a program that looks at all of our bus stops. And the goal with our bus stop and amenities program since 2018 has been to make our service more ADA accessible. So when we first started this process, only 13% of our bus stops were ADA accessible. Now that may seem low, and it is low, but this is actually pretty close to the national average. And a lot of the time it's difficult to make a bus stop ADA accessible for various reasons, whether it be right of way or lack of funding. But we are focused on making our services as accessible as possible. So currently we have 232 compliant stops. And we have a goal of increasing that percentage by 4% every single year.
Question on that. Does clearing a curb of parking so that the bus can always pull up to the curb and allow the ramp to go out? Does that suffice for creating an ADA accessible stop?
Not quite, because it's really dependent on that path of travel I talked about, but it's more dependent on the landing zone, right? So we need an 8x5 pad to extend the ramp that we deploy to let folks in mobility devices get out. So It's a few different factors, right? But
So if the sidewalk is 5 feet wide, would that?
with the
That's-
depth actually needs to be 8.
Okay,
So,
that
and then
needs to be
but 5 foot vertical and 8 foot depth.
Okay, so you essentially would need a bulb out on like a standard sidewalk?
Well, that could help, or if the right of way allows for it, we can go a little bit deeper into wherever that is, so. But parking, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that can be a barrier for us. The revised code of Washington does dictate if we have a bus stop, there should be no parking, but in practice, that doesn't always happen. We're actually working right now with the city of Pasco on our bus stops in downtown Pasco. So right now we have a lot of instances where the angled parking makes it tough for us to deploy ramps. And we're working on some solutions for that, because we don't necessarily want to reduce parking for any of the jurisdictions, but we want to make sure that BFT has a place where we can board and alight or have an ADA accessible area for people to get on.
Actually got a question as well about, I'm not sure what is considered, is there anything else related to ADA compliance? For instance, is having a shelter related to ADA compliance, or is that totally separate?
That is totally separate, and we take a quantitative approach with how we distribute our amenities. The FTA, or the Federal Transportation Administration, who is our federal oversight agency, lays out a process in which you basically use ridership and then the surrounding development to dictate where we should put our amenities. But we can obviously put local context to that, right? But they suggest doing it by ridership, and for us, right, if more people are using it, that means there's more of a reason to invest to that area. So
Okay, the only thing that I would say about that is, wouldn't it sometimes be the opposite, where maybe people aren't riding because there isn't a shelter, and the ridership could be more
Yeah.
if there were a shelter in
yeah,
a certain
no,
area?
that's definitely true, and that's something we need to work out to where I did call it a quantitative process, but we have to bring in that qualitative piece of it, right? And so a good example would be if we had a stop that was maybe a little below the threshold, but it was right next to a senior home, and we know that they may need some coverage. We may deviate from that, so we have that latitude. So
We have a civic group in our town, the Prosser Rotary Club, who that is interested in helping to provide benches. They have a decades-long program of providing municipal benches that people purchase kind of in memoriam to somebody. And they would be interested in helping to place bus benches near our bus stops that currently need them. Is there any objection from the transit agency about having groups or municipalities provide seating where we're seating?
not at all, and I've heard many stories of people taking it upon themselves to put benches in and amenities, and for us, as the agency, we would love to be able to provide those, knowing that there's a need. But I also love that the community's taking it in their own hands and saying we need this here, because that signals to us, right, that if we ever have the opportunity to improve that specific stop, then the community's behind it. But I would say we'd be more than open to that. In fact, that's exciting to hear, and we'd love to work. So
Great. I would imagine that, well, I guess I should ask, is that something that they would have to contact BFT and the municipality to make sure that it meets the requirements necessary for both this municipality and for transit?
Ideally, yes, and we would need to make sure that, it's ADA accessible, but in practice, if someone puts something there, right, it's an indication to us that it's needed, right? So
My concern is if somebody were to build something and then it not meet requirements, it'd have to be completely taken down, so.
yeah, and a lot of the time where that's been done, right, it's been out of our control, right? Because if it's beyond the right of way, we don't really have control, but at the same time, again, it's an indication to us that that's needed. In the case of Prosser and the Rotary Club, Yeah, we obviously coordinate to make sure that, you know, we could potentially build a pad and you all provide, the bench or whatever.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, Kevin, that was a great presentation. Thank you. But I have a couple of questions. One is you talked about, people are asking for later night, riders or whatever. What would be the cost of extending, say, from the current 10 o'clock to midnight?
You know, with not knowing exactly what we're doing, that's hard to put out
Okay.
there too. But I think, you know, anytime you expand, span, you know, service span, as we call it. It does cost more than just putting a new bus out or a new route out, because there's additional overhead costs that would come along with that. So currently our, cost per operating hour for the fixed route is around $130. So, you know, but without knowing exactly what we would extend, I can't put a number on.
And the other thing, and I think I already know the answer because you've given it before, but, just for the record, what kind of discounts or benefits do you offer veterans?
Yes, veterans ride for free, so on our fixed route system. That currently doesn't extend to our data ride system, but there's been talks of that, so. Seniors, anyone over 65 rides for free, and 18 and under rides for free, and so. We put that in place, the youth ride free, as we call it, in 2022. And that is actually something we did that basically allows us to receive additional grant funds from the state. So we received $3.5 million in transit support grants for providing that free fare. So
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
What do you attribute, I was delighted to hear that ridership is up. Do you have any idea why ridership is up?
Yeah, I think there's several factors, right? I think one, all the work we've been doing on bus stops has really helped. I think the Youth Ride Free program that I mentioned has helped as well. And we have added service hours and we've seen people using service during that time. We did add Sunday service in 2021. At the time, we were the largest metro area, if you can call us, or largest agency other than Boise, Idaho, that didn't have Sunday service. So I think we've been adding service, again, Youth Ride Free. And then I'd like to say, right, that our marketing and outreach has greatly improved over the past 3 to 4 years, about 2 to 3, really coinciding with this guy right next to me. And my team. Yes. And I think that's definitely been fruitful. You know, we've gotten the word out about transit more. Because we know not everyone's gonna ride transit, but the more people we can attract to the service, you know, it's a benefit to all. It reduces congestion, and provides better opportunities, so.
And for the veterans, they can get those free passes at the Veterans Center over in Pasco. They can get them at the Benton County Veterans Support over at Benton County back building. And there's one other place, you just have to show their discharge papers, their good discharge papers. And then they get that free pass, and that's good for any fixed route. And then we're working with getting a bus route that goes directly to the Veterans Center here this year. And so that it'll make it even easier for people to go back and forth. Outreach is probably the biggest hurdle right now, and we're working on ways to get that outreach by attending the stand downs and trying to reach out to these veterans that may or may not know the process, so that we can get more of them in the transportation I'm working for, especially with veterans.
So you're talking about the Columbia Basin veterans.
Yeah.
Taking your DD 214.
You got it, yeah.
Okay.
And you're working with Bruce.
And then, they've got passes, so they'll verify those there in the same at the county, at Benton County, at the Veterans Relief Center. So we have both those places covered at this point. And let's say the other one is, like Kevin said, the Youth Ride Free is, I mean, we're one of the biggest Youth Ride Free by percentage in the state. They use our service, and we're working with the school districts a lot, knowing that there's 35,000 eligible students between middle school and high school that could use our service. And every year we try to work with those districts to do a better job of communicating, but I can't say it enough that Youth Ride Free to get it into enough parents' mind and teachers and the school kids themselves mind that they ride free. So it's a never ending challenge to get higher and higher and higher. We're probably doing, Kevin, how many rides and use ride free, would you say?
About 40%, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, on any given, it's about probably 120,000 every month.
So that's still a growth target for us along with the veterans. And obviously the seniors is the other one. That's our third piece of the ride free stool that we're building our outreach program with our travel trainers to go in and give them the option if they didn't qualify for dial ride and how to use fixed route, how to understand BF and put those pieces together.
With the veterans, have you also talked to the VA, the community-based outpatient clinic?
We have.
Richland?
Yep, so we're touching base there. We've also been trying to figure out ways and we haven't got there to figure out how we get them to Wall if ever possible. If we can get a local agreement one day with Wall to get people down to the medical center there. When we get the new one here, it'll be great. It'll be able to help a ton.
And there's also a vet center in Walla Walla.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one they have a hard time getting to from here. And so we've been working on that puzzle for a couple of years and not quite solved it yet.
Yeah, and I, when talking with Aaron and BFCOG staff, they're about to go through their human services transportation plan updated, and I think that's something we can address as a region, and I think BFT plays a role in making those services better. So.
I would love to get a ride down to the Walla Walla Vet Center, especially Thursdays.
That could be great fun, great fun might be a thing that we know that they're all over between them as people.
Yeah, and I did want to mention, right, youth ride free. It's really important that those folks that use the transit, right, we're giving them an introduction to the service, and once after they're 18, there's a way bigger chance that they'll ride transit, right? And I can say that because that's exactly how it worked with me. Not that there was youth ride free, but I went to Carmichael Middle School right over here and then Richland, and I rode the bus everywhere. And then in high school, I used the 225 to get to and from Running Start. So, and that turned me into a transit rider. So, if you show people it can work, that they're much more inclined to use it, even if they have access to this in the lot.
And we found a reduction in Yellow bus service. Most people aren't aware of it. They think it's like it was when they were kids and or after school activity buses that still ran late. It's like, those don't exist anymore. And most people don't realize that.
Something that I know that just being on the BFT board of directors, you were talking about the extra security with the cameras and the personnel from Phoenix. So I don't know if you wanted to briefly touch on that, because sometimes people might be concerned about riding the transit or having their children on the transit because of safety concerns, but with these extra.
Yeah, we put in just about 3 weeks ago, we added what's Phoenix Security, and so their name will be changing to Ally. They were purchased by Ally, so that will be happening on April 5th. So we're making some adjustments to our marketing and positioning of that. We have people at non-lethal so they would be tasers, and they have blues, not jackets, but shirts. So that we call them the blue shirts. We've got the blue vest people that are our supervisors. They're kind of our front line for help or defense for our operators and our customers. And then the security is back. They don't have the ability to use any kind of lethal force. It's only defensive, and it's really to de-escalate is their number one mission, or make contact with people. So now we currently have someone there from at our facility. We have them there at 4 o'clock because we have people come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning to start service. They hang out at the facility and watch our MOA area till about 5:30, and then they head out to the 3 transit centers. So we have them at Ninth Street, we have them at 22nd, and we have them at 3 Rivers. And they'll go back and forth kind of with the ebb and flow of people on the platform. If you get a chance to talk to them, do, because they're really interesting people. They've led interesting lives. And they're really good representatives of our community and of BFT. And then they will also get on buses from time to time. We give them the statistics that Kevin pulls from operations, and operations has where I wouldn't say that we have trouble, but where, particularly like a school, we might get rowdy and it might get noisy and it might get a little rambunctious, especially after school. That guy goes on that bus driver says to me, "Quietest ride home I've had in a long time." And that's the difference that makes. It really stops knuckleheads from being knuckleheads. And I think it also gives someone that may want to have cause trouble, a pause and a second thought, do I really want to go there? So they're there currently Monday through Friday, going in April, we're adding in Saturday and Sunday. They will be there, basically on Saturday from 2 o'clock till 10, and on Sunday we have shorter service, so we'll be noon to 8. The other thing we just added as a test was the LVT live video technologies trailers. You've seen them at the malls with the blue lights. We've been testing them out at Three Rivers. We have the ability to use a microphone and speak to people if they're doing something wrong or we're trying to get their attention. We just got a video in last night of someone that was trespassing late at night. The automatic attention light went on and an announcement went out that you're trespassing, there's no service this time, please leave the area. Person left the area. We watched this test in Sacramento Rail, and they did it for like a year and a half. And because they have so many rail stops, it was the only way. They could never hire enough security. And they said it reduced to by 80% the issues that they had of trespass or just people in tomfoolery and being doing things they shouldn't do. It just went away by an 80% mark for them. So it was very successful. So the next step for us is we're about to roll those out also to 20 seconds. We'd also roll them out to Ninth Street. We have it at Three Rivers, and then we'd also roll another 4 to 5 out at our parking lots to help give additional coverage to prevent siphoning, prevent prowling and vandalism. In particular, the Queens Gate, Tulip Lane one, our Y that we have over by the MOA, and we have 3 other areas that we're working on agreements to be able to put them with whoever the landholders are, whether it's WashDOT or whether it's a private party, so that we can help protect that asset that we have in rideshare and the vehicles around there. It's been a big step. It's been needed. There was no seminal moment. This is something that Tom put in place as CEO. We started doing it. The plan was in October and we started to roll it out in November. And it really was so that there isn't a seminal moment. We really wanted to get it out there ahead of time. So we're not being reactive. We're really trying to prevent anything bad from happening. And it does make a huge difference. The vibe, if you just go out there, for me that spends a lot of time on the platforms or on the buses, it's totally different. And it's way more calm. You know, if you know someone's gonna be interesting, you keep an eye on that interesting person. And they may be just an interesting person, but sometimes, you know, it's a good thing to have a person there. So we're happy to be doing it.
Yeah. And Stephen, did you have?
Yes, please. So I have the privilege of serving on the Benton-Franklin Transit Board. And I've also run this team for quite a few years as a land developer. So there's a couple of things I wanted to share about it. They're amazing, number one. And Kevin said something that I have found to be very true as a private developer and also getting to watch that from a board level. And that is to break down silos. And so Brian and Kevin do a really good job of doing that. And as a private developer, one of the most frustrating things in private development is calling a governmental agency and getting a voicemail or getting sent somewhere into the void that never returns. And Kevin faithfully for, I don't know, how long we've known each other, 12 years maybe?
Yeah.
And Kevin almost 100% of the time has called me back within the same day. I'm thankful for that. So thank you for your representation. And then for the rest of you guys, I thought I'd share one other story. The Youth Rights Free program. There was recently, a few weeks back, we had a youth that got on a bus and afterwards told a story that got on the bus because they remembered that Youth Ride Free. They weren't a normal transit rider, but remembered that and they were in crisis. And so they asked our operator of the bus for a piece of paper, and they wrote on the piece of paper and gave that to one of the security guards that was riding on the bus. And they asked for help because they were being trafficked. And so that was, the security guard was able to meet with one of our law enforcement partners and were able to give them help, get them out of that situation. And it was really, it was a tragic event, but we're thankful that it turned out the way it did. We had that opportunity to get that youth, some assistance with the crisis that they were in. So really thankful for that. And just, I really appreciate how much you guys study, listen, and work with private, public as far as the benches thing, they do that. In my private business, I work with them, trying to get bus stops and they've just been extraordinary and now, and it really truly is a pleasure to be able to serve on the board of directors there at Transit. And so, yeah, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's.
Any additional comments? Oh, do we have a yes? Mayor Brown?
Oh, he's frozen.
I want to mention, I also have served with, we good?
We can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that I've also had the pleasure of serving on the transit. Oh, great. I've also had the pleasure of serving on the transit board the last couple of years with Commissioner Bauman. And one of the things I've appreciated most about the transit agency is their attempt to just really partner with the municipalities, help the municipalities. And one of the things they've also done really well as of late is just their marketing, just, you know, promoting Ben-Franklin Transit as the positive agency it is within our area. And one of the ways that we've tried to come up with really just make just legal review right now, and kind of got hung up with some other things going on is and this really relates well to the mission of the COG, but to come up with a grant program where the cities, partnering with the cities, Ben-Franklin Transit serves to help with things like ADA accommodations. One of the things we're talking to with bus stops and infrastructure, and maybe even helping, you know, mitigate some of the impact that the buses have on the roads. And it's something we kind of fleshed out amongst a couple of us board members, and, you know, ran it by the previous CEO and took it to the legal team, and they didn't see any problem with it out of the gate. And you know, are just kind of in the process of reviewing it with everything else. But when that comes out of review and comes before the board and as a presentation and final approval or whatever, I think this is going to potentially just be a real win for the cities, for the transit agency, because I think sometimes we do get this attitude where it's kind of an us and them, or they're doing this or that, you know, and there's you know, exchange of tax dollars and those kind of things. And I think this will be kind of one of those things that will really show that Ben-Franklin Transit does have goodwill. They do want to partner. They do want to put the communities first. They do want to serve. They do want to, you know, just kind of walk hand in hand with the municipalities and the citizens in all that we do. And so this is just such a real win. It's not taking any of their money out of their general fund or anything like that. It's just the interest that just some of the interest money that it makes a year for those that are, you know, afraid that, you know, Ben-Franklin Transit's being gutted or whatever, anything like that. Something that is equitable, that is split between, you know, all the communities Ben-Franklin Transit serves, so that, again, you know, they are in partnership with these cities. And so just really looking forward to hopefully bringing that before the board. Hopefully not too much longer, but anyways, that's been an exciting thing to work on that I think will benefit all the municipalities Ben-Franklin serves.
Thank you. Flowing feedback there.
I will also say, I just had my first ever meeting as a member of the board of directors, and I know why previous director Bloom wanted to stay on BFT. I've got to say, not only was it one of the best, not saying anything. I said one of, not the, but one of the best board of director meetings I've had. And they also had snacks. Oh, nice charcuteries, just saying, just saying.
There's two other grant programs that you may not be aware of. So one is, I know you're aware of the Van Me Down program, where when we surplus vehicles, We then turn them over to nonprofits and nonprofit agencies. We're gonna be doing 7 more of those awards here in the next 30 days, and then people will be able to submit for them again. There's also a program for tickets, for nonprofits and nonprofit agencies and government agencies that, you can get up to $750 worth of tickets in vouchers, whether that's for dial ride, whether that's for fixed route, whether that's a monthly pass, 10 ride tickets. And currently that grant program every month fills up with 15 agencies pretty regularly from all of your various jurisdictions. We get people all over doing that, and we love doing it. It's been very successful, but those are 2 other outreach programs to get back to the community that, 1, we're proud of, and 2, people are using. So it's a good use of our resources.
And Madam Chair, Skip, you said something about our veterans and being concerned there. That's one thing that I've noticed that Benton-Franklin Transit does an extraordinary job of reaching out and working hard to serve our veterans. This fall, Transit will be a sponsor of the veteran stand down, and they've been working on that actually for months and months already in preparation, helping put that together. It's my understanding there's expected to be somewhere between 1,400 and 1,500 veterans at that event. Yeah, so I appreciate your concern for that. I share that. My son is in service, and so thank you for what you do for veterans.
And they also have the bus wraps for every,
We
do
do.
you guys have one for Space Force yet?
Space, and you know, them all.
Wow.
6, Space.
Yeah, and they are in attendance at the West Richland Veterans Day Parade, so, yeah, always happy to see that, take pictures in front of the Navy bus with the other Navy folks in the city councils.
Thank you. And just one more quick comment. When we had our visioning session, the youth who participated in the visioning session, transit was a top priority. It was mentioned several times over that the future of our region is going to really depend upon improving and enhancing the transit service. Many of the teens and college age students who participated said, you know, we really depend on transit. I need transit to go to Running Start. I need transit to be able to go to a job. I can't afford a car. I'm 17. And so transit is really a lifeline to connecting youth to education, employment, just participating in the community.
So great point. And what they're finding too is the younger generations are driving less, right? And they're less, they're less interested in having their own vehicle, right? So we're just gonna have to meet that trend. And I think it'll be, you know, a positive for us in terms of productivity and ridership.
And just remember that 2-year COVID gap for those kids. They didn't get the normal driving experience you would get as a freedom of a teenager. And then the freedom of a teenager changed during COVID to where it wasn't about going somewhere, it was about getting online. And that's again where transit comes into play, because I'm surprised how many kids waited to get their driver's license or didn't that grew up during that time period now.
Well, it's expensive to drive, I mean, especially as a teenager, not just the gas, but also the insurance. It just is unreal.
That definition of freedom is definitely changing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll go ahead and move on to item 8, the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Right.
second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, the consent agenda has been approved. Item 9, action items. Aaron?
Alrighty. The action item I have before you is the Regional Transportation Plan 2050 Regional Metrics. This is a quick background on the regional metrics. This is coming out of all of the goals that you adopted back in December that tie to the Regional Transportation Plan 2050. So why are we doing this? The plan is required to have performance metrics and how our system is doing. Last month, we had a great discussion about the safety performance measures that WashDOT has us do. But to the point of that is not contextualized to our region. So we want to make sure if we are assessing our system, how are we doing it based upon what we want it to be? So with how the goals were adopted, we have the 1 through 9, and I'll walk through them here shortly with the metrics associated. They become scaled or weighted to those goals. So it's different than the washout goals. We're still, our washout performance measures, we're still meeting those, but we want to make sure that we're assessing the system based upon how all the jurisdictions said what matters the most. So with that, this same presentation was given to the TAC members. It was passed unanimously with a couple of edits that I'll point out as well. So number 1, safety. So how is safety going to be measured? It's based upon the if a project is on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan network, what is the regional accident rate? So that's for vehicles and pedestrian and bicyclists. And then the regional rate of fatal and serious injuries as well. So that's safety for 20 points. And I'll say this same methodology is being used in several of the jurisdictions' transportation system master plans. So this is a really cool instance where all planning is being coordinated very well. So if we're doing it at the region level, it's also happening at the county level and the individual jurisdiction level. So it'd be safety for 20 points. Number 2 is integration and connectivity. So that how this will be scored is if a project is on the congestion management process corridor, if it's on the regional bicycle network, or if it's on the regional pedestrian network, which was adopted last month with our regional pedestrian trails plan. And then if the project is a part of or on the regional safe routes to school network as well. Number 3 is mobility and accessibility. So this will be scored based upon access to a transit center or stop, access to population centers, access to employment centers, access to activity centers, and then excuse the typo, it's not Sand Williams, it's Sandy Williams equity analysis. So this was one of the edits we had to make at the TAC level is we originally had this as access to transit center was 6 points. It was requested from started with the city of Richland and then also seconded by WashDOT that we incorporate the Sandy Williams equity analysis as part of this, as it ties into what our definition is for mobility and accessibility. And then also it helps jurisdictions show how well they're going to be scoring in the Connecting Communities grant, which then is a part of WashDOT. So this is a good analysis to see how things are being scored.
This one, just checking to make sure that it's a typo in the agenda. Sorry, brain. That what we've got here, because for access to transit center stops, the first of them project is within a quarter mile of transit center stop, it has 4 points rather than 3.
It should be 3 points. Thank you.
Of course. Very top one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Follow the bold heading, not small.
I figured.
Thank you. Next one is economic vitality. This is based upon if it's on a freight corridor and average daily traffic. And I'll say for each one of these points, there is the more level of detail. So what the scalability of the level of, or excuse me, the average daily traffic is. That is in your board packet. They will be scaled based upon where the project is. It was the same type of scaling we did for the call for projects. So a project that is in Pasco, obviously will have more average daily traffic than a project that is in rural Franklin County, but they will be scaled. So if it is say 6,000 in rural Franklin County, that could still get the most amount of points versus a very urban project.
For the freight corridor, is there a way to get 6 points?
Yes, there, this would be the same thing. Oh, this is the same scaling issue. So yes, it would be the same. Yes, the T1 or the T1 order would be 6 points. T2 would be 4,
Okay.
T3.
So it's just.
Yes. Next is preservation and maintenance, and this was also a one that we had an edit with at the TAC level. So this is based upon the federal functional classification with the caveat of a system expansion project or a new facility will not be eligible to receive points within this category. So if it is a new road, it can't receive any points for preservation and maintenance. Next one is cooperation and leadership. So if the project is on the BFCOG regional transportation priorities list, and then if more than one jurisdiction is, and this is, wow, this is 8 points, excuse me. And this is if BFT counts as more than one jurisdiction. So if the city of Prosser is working on a road project, say that is an overlay, and they are going to be increasing access to transit stops, they would then get 2 points for this. So it's how can people be coordinating better? Quality of life, and this is based upon our level of traffic stress. I will say, if you want more information on level of traffic stress, I can answer more questions to this, but this is a qualitative way for planners and engineers to assess how a person is moving throughout a corridor. So how stressful they are based upon certain data.
To do with speed
Mhm.
of vehicles and.
And it's the more data that goes into it, the more accurate it can be. It's based upon speed of vehicles, average daily traffic, number of lanes, width of road, pedestrian and bicycle facilities present. So all of that goes into the level of traffic stress. And we have one for pedestrians and we have one for bicyclists as well. Environment, this is based upon if the project is reducing vehicle miles traveled, we are using our regional travel demand model to be able to produce this result. Last is stewardship, and this is based upon existing peak hour conditions. So this is using our regional travel demand model. So how is the project going to be reducing congestion at those peak hours?
I'm assuming the same for that one at the top, we need 6 rather than 5.
Yes. So with that, I can answer any questions about these regional metrics, and I will say all of these have been discussed at the TAC level. It was approved based upon what is going to be stored. If there's going to be any editing that needs to be done based upon, say, to what Councilmember Moran said of saying, hey, this should be worth 4 instead of 6, that can still be decided later, but we want to know how the system is going to be assessed and we can adjust that. And what this will be used for. So April 1st, we're starting an exercise on social pinpoint for our regional transportation plan, where we are asking the public to prioritize these projects that you've all submitted to us. And then in the background, we're going to be doing the same thing with all the projects based upon these regional metrics, and then we're going to see how they compare. So it's a full community versus, we'll say, data to see where they overlap or they do not overlap.
Aaron, what happens when the metrics are perhaps at odds with each other? So I think sometimes there can still be an approach of, oh, there's congestion, so we need to widen the road and allow for relief of that congestion, but then it negatively impacts like traffic stress or negatively impacts these other factors. How is that all reconciled?
That's the fun part of the job, I would say, is there's things that are competing interests, and that's hopefully being answered within the weighting that the board has put in the different goals. So for example, we'll say the economic vitality one gives a higher rate for freight. So that would mean there's going to be more trucks on the road, but that could result in somebody feeling more stressed when they're on the road. So it kind of puts it at odds with the level of traffic stress. And it just depends on the different type of project. So if there is a project in, I know City of Richland presented last month with their downtown loop or the downtown connectivity. That project's going to score very well in the quality of life category. Might not score the best in economic vitality, but that's just how we're trying to weigh the two. So that would be my answer to you, is that some of them will score better than others, but there can't be a seemingly perfect project that answers all of the issues that are presented. And I'll say, Maricela, to your question, that's exactly why we wanted to go with the route of the goals and the metrics of, we wanted to know what the board values and how we should be looking at regional transportation planning of, we know that not everything can be valued the same, because if everything's the same, then nothing is valued. So with safety being number one, we know that safety projects are the most, and then as we go down the goals.
Thank you. Any additional discussion or comments?
I will also say that I like that we've got the preservation and maintenance on there as 10 points. I think it's important because we need to maintain what we have and make sure that that is one of the priorities, along with safety, where safety is more important, but also making sure that we maintain what we have is really valuable. necessary.
And Councilman Moran, just because you brought it up and Roscoe is somebody that asked a question during the TAC meeting, I want to make sure that I point this out, that this is not tied to the call for projects. So there is no funding associated with how the projects will be associated based upon this. This is our first way of assessing projects on a regional scale. And it will be refined as we go through each iteration of the regional transportation plan.
Thank you.
All right, we have a proposed motion for the 2050 regional metrics.
I move adoption of the RTP 2050 regional metrics as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our EDD action items.
Okay, so for our economic development district, we spoke last month about the Federal Partners Coalition event that is happening next week and our desire to support that however we could. We were finally able to come up with some sponsorship information. So again, just as a background, this is a no cost 1-day event. There are now 8 federal agencies that are being represented. The focus is on strengthening connections between local communities and those federal agencies, especially around economic development, infrastructure, and community investments. So there's an opportunity for local governments and others to really spend some time and connect with representatives from each of these respective agencies. The sponsorship that was ultimately needed still was a $5,000 sponsorship for breakfast. Normally sponsoring hospitality related things gets into that, you know, a gray area sometimes. However, for us, because we have our Public Works Economic Development Act dollars, the purpose of which is specifically to coordinate economic development and convening and all of that, this is a unique opportunity where we could actually use those dollars in the form of a sponsorship to support this event. Because of time constraints, we did end up asking our executive committee to authorize the sponsorship between board meetings, simply because the event is next Thursday, and so ordering banners and whatnot needed to get rolling. We did have 100% of our executive committee approve that action. So the proposed motion on the screen is actually different than what's in the packet, in that we're asking for a ratification of the executive committee's decision.
Right, we have a proposed motion.
I move to ratify the executive committee decision to authorize the $5,000 breakfast sponsorship for the Federal Partners Coalition event utilizing Public Works Economic Development Administration funds.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right, any discussion on this item?
Do we know how many people are gonna attend this event?
The early estimate was between 1,000 and 1,500 people. It is expected to draw from a 4 to 5 state area rather than just our local region. So I know they've got, in fact, on the screen, the QR code and the information in your packet, they are collecting registrations to get an idea of the number. There will also be a resource fair and breakout sessions. I know one of the breakouts is going to be specifically with the Veterans Administration for veterans. I believe there'll also be a breakout with the Economic Development Administration and USDA Rural Development, are the 3 that I'm aware of at this point. The planning of this event has been evolving rapidly since its inception. So new information is coming out every day.
Yeah. More information now than at our meeting.
Exactly, yeah. Last month, there were only 6 agencies, now there are 8. Including the Department of Health and Human Services and DEA will both be participating as well.
Wish I could attend. I'll be at St. Louis.
Any additional questions? Yes, Vicky?
No, I don't, I don't have.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
I,
Okay.
Vicky, we're just clarifying, you were a delayed, yes and not a no.
yeah, I was a delayed yes and not a no.
Thank you.
Understood. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And moving to COG action item also with Michelle.
Okay, so in your packet, you have resolution 426, adoption of the employee manual revision 1. So just as some background, we contracted with HR consultant Sherry Monty with Next Gen HR Solutions to review our employee manual for necessary compliance updates that we knew had come down from both the federal and a state level to make sure that we had everything correct. So she went through looking for legal compliance, making sure that it reflected both current federal and state requirements, reduced any areas of potential HR risk, improving just general clarity. There had been a couple of areas where from the time we adopted the employee manual where we had questions that maybe the language was not as clear as we needed it to be. And then tailoring policies to our size of structure. So there were some places, for example, where our employee manual referenced federal FMLA that we are not actually bound to because of the size of our agency being so small. So there were some language places that needed to be adjusted. Specifically, those areas included equal opportunity and ADA compliance, making sure that we clearly articulate, for example, the reasonable accommodations policy that we adopted under the consent agenda. We didn't have a specific policy. There was a vague reference in our employee manual, but the policy actually includes the process and procedure that would be used to employee accommodations, so reducing our general risk. The exempt and non-exempt overtime clarification, again, there were just some vague wording in the previous manual that didn't make that very clear. So avoids any inference that staff can make up time, for example. So that clarity was added. Our lactation and pregnancy related accommodations had some outdated wording, so those were updated to come in line with the new rules and regulations. Paid sick time, we had some wording that maybe made it sound like we were discouraging people from using sick time. So we wanted to make sure that was not the case to avoid any risk with L&I. FMLA, again, does not apply to agencies that have 50 or fewer employees. So we were referencing requirements that actually didn't apply to us specifically. However, we did add language clarifying Washington State's PFMLA program, which again is not required for agencies under 25, but will be a requirement in 2027. So we're just being proactive since we were making adjustments now. We included that language this year instead of waiting to make an adjustment next year. There's an overall summary of all of the manual changes that were included in the packet. So you can see the places where it was either just clarification of wording, a specific structural change. The ADA policy did have substantive changes to it. The flexible and telecommuting policy again was just some clarifying language. Overtime was another one of those. Lactation, various leave policies, all of those we previously referenced were mentioned in multiple areas. Under the disciplinary policy, specifically adding the flexible wording to determine the steps, there's a suggested steps in there, but just clarifying that, there is flexibility in how those are applied. And then the email, computer, internet, and social media, we rebuilt that a little bit to include some AI language, which was not in the original policy, just referencing that staff will be using that in some ways, and what that means. It's our intention to ultimately have a standalone AI-related policy, but we're still figuring out what that should look like for us as an agency, but at least to acknowledge it the same way we do social media or what is not changing, there's nothing about the core employment philosophy, commitments to fairness, compliance, nothing about our day-to-day operational practices unless that was required by law. There's no employee benefits beyond what was legally aligned, what was in the previous manual. So the board assurance that no recommended changes would materially alter our current operations or staffing structure. It's basically just keeping us legal and compliant. We mentioned the reasonable accommodation policy already. The other thing, we've had requests in the past to please provide a red line copy when we're making these kinds of changes. However, Sherry had recommended a new order of the pieces of the previous policy, which made providing the red line challenge and a lot of additional information. We have a red line of the original along with the new policy and the chart that outlines exactly what was changed for our records, but just for your information. That's why we didn't have it, because trying to compare it would really not have been helpful for you. Okay, and then a proposed motion for the resolution.
Any questions for Michelle about the revision?
What's Sherry's back? Is she an HR professional?
Yes, she's a 20+ year HR professional and has her own consulting business.
Then I'm wondering, did this also go to any legal counsel?
Yes.
It did, perfect,
Yes.
thank you.
I just want to say, with the constant eroding of worker rights, it's really good to see this.
Yes.
Because I'm sure that this is definitely going to help in some way with morale. Having been affected the opposite way from my own personal employment, it's good to see this.
For so many years, we did not have an employee manual at all. So the fact that we not only have one that now we're making, compliance adjustments to is a nice place to be.
And do we have a motion to approve the adoption of this employee manual revision 1?
I move the adoption of resolution 04-26, the resolution of the Board of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments adopting revision 1 of the BFCOG employee manual as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion on this item? All in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. Motion is approved. Moving to item 10, we'll begin with our RTPO report from Aaron.
Yes, and I'm going to say, I'm going to express a level of vulnerability here. I'm going to use my one excuse of being a new dad as the typo. That is just not sitting with me well, so I wanted to just get out ahead of that. All right. This is your monthly update for the federal fiscal year 2026 obligation status. So as just a quick refresher, the COG gets a amount of funding, the jurisdictions that gets doled out in the call for projects, jurisdictions have to spend it to a certain level. If we don't, we get sanctioned. So this year our target is 5.5 million. We had 2 projects obligate over the past month. Let's go City of Prosser for obligating 2 projects. And now we have 5.26 million to reach our target. Each month, Tanner does a good job at the TAC level asking jurisdictions, how are you doing and when are you going to obligate your project? Starting last month, you can see on your screen, this is a monthly update. So if they provide a month and then they change it, it is strike through and then the next month is provided. This is to show the transparency. And why are we doing this? Because if we do not obligate our funds, that leaves us at risk of being sanctioned, and the jurisdictions will not be able to receive more funding, and funding from our region will go elsewhere. We don't want that. So this is to show the transparency behind that. So this is the table you will see on a monthly basis. And that goes into a great segue for our next TAC meeting. The April TAC meeting is required to be in person. And with the adoption of our TIP policies and procedures last year, and our call for projects guidebook, the April TAC meeting is kind of the truth-telling meeting for the jurisdictions. So I will go back to this slide for the sake of this. At the April TAC meeting, the jurisdictions will be able to say, we're going to ask everybody, are you going to obligate before the end of September? If they say yes, and they do not obligate, those funds for the project will then be returned to the region, and that project will no longer be funded. If they say, no, we are not going to obligate, they will get a 1-year pass, and they have to obligate by July of next year. So that is hoping to incentivize the jurisdictions to be more forthcoming with their information. So if there's a project, Kate, you're sitting next to me, so we'll say as West Richland's on the list. If West Richland was up here and they said, we are going to be shifting our project back to next year, that does leave a gap in funding that we have to fill to meet our obligation target. We had a contingency list developed with the call for projects about preservation projects. Those are much easier to churn and burn and get out at the jurisdiction level, and that's why we have those. And we have that scenario in place if that does happen at the April TAC meeting. So that is what this slide spells out for you. Any questions on that? I will.
I'm just wondering for this, though, is it the end of September or the beginning of September?
It's technically the end of September, but this is where it's with WashDOT, it's a little different. They want the projects submitted to them by the beginning of September, but technically, if you submit your paperwork to them by middle of September, it still counts, but there's this weird ambiguity lag time, so it's just to get rid of any heartburn, have it done at the beginning of September.
And this is submitted, not shovel ready.
Correct, and it could be based upon the phase of the project, it could be engineering, right of way, construction, so it varies.
And for this in person, is it just one representative from the municipality, or is it both representatives? Because I know that we have the public works and community development or whatever.
Yeah.
Those two are, is it both or one?
Just one, it'll just be the TAC members, that's predominantly the public works director or county engineers, so anytime it's doing.
Thank you.
So I will report back on how that meeting goes next month. All right, another update is over the past several months, staff, Tanner's been leading this of the National Highway Freight Program project submission. So the Washington State Department of Transportation is updating their freight plan, and as they're updating their freight plan, they pass along projects to the National Highway Freight Program. So Tanner has been coordinating with jurisdictions to get projects into their application process and then submitted to WashDOT. So over the last several months, here are the projects that Tanner worked with that were then passed along to the NHFP. And if your jurisdiction is not up there, that is because they are seeking funding from other sources, or they just don't have a project that is freight specific that falls within this. So, and we've had plenty of back and forth from the jurisdictions. And then Tanner did work well. There was a special shout out from the Washington State Department of Transportation in the freight department of how well the jurisdictions worked with us, and then how timely Tanner got back to WashDOT to revise the applications where things were messed up. So any questions on this? If not, I can keep on going. All right. Next is about the Regional Transportation Plan focus groups. So we had round one of the RTP focus groups conclude at the end of February. However, here are all of this, here's some pictures from each of the focus groups, and just letting you all know, we will be starting the next round of our focus groups on April 2nd with the rural focus group. But over the past month in February, it was really good to interact with the community, and I'll say it was of value to hear people's personal experiences behind the transportation system rather than just what we get from the surveyor. So the focus groups have been something we've added in, led by Lizzie and Daisy, and it's been, I'd say, a success so far, and we look forward to the next round of focus groups in April. And there will be a complete analysis of the focus groups available for public consumption after the second half. All right, other items of note. This past month, I participated in the Richland Transportation System Plan, and the city of Richland and the Transco group gave BFCOG praise for our use of data, forward thinking, and use of non-subjective criteria to score projects, specifically calling out our methodology with the regional metrics that were just adopted and what we did with the call for projects, and how we've adopted regional systems that then can be applied to each individual jurisdiction to help them with specific methodology. Looking directly at our CMP, our CSAP, and our level of traffic stress. So that was really cool to see in here. Another thing is we are hiring for a transportation summer intern. As of March 18th, we have 34 applicants, so that's really cool. Applications will be closed on April 6th. We are hoping to hire one, if not maybe two, if we just have so many quality applicants. And this is something we are hoping to make an annual process, as we have had, as the last time we did this, we had 2 of the interns now as full-time employees. So that's something that's very cool. At the end, what we are envisioning is the summer intern will be interacting with all of you throughout the summer, working on different projects and being here. But hopefully at the end of that time, they will then be open to be hired by any of the jurisdictions. So it is a high bar that our previous interns have set, so hoping that they will meet that. Another is Daisy and myself worked on a Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, also known as AMPO, presentation proposal. The title is Start Where You Are, Risk-Taking, Credibility, and Community Trust for MPOs. This is about where the COG was and where we are now, and all the groundwork that has gone into it to being able to be a more respected planning organization in the community, and how we are just now starting to see the results of all the background work. So that was submitted on March, I believe it was March 9th. So we have not heard back, but we'll report back to the board on that. And then last is a national safe routes to school proposal. That is due on April 1st. We're working on a proposal based upon all of the work that has been done with our regional safe routes to school action plan. And that's all that I have. So if you have any questions, if not, I'll turn it over.
I'm just curious with the internship, have you also been speaking to WSU and to UW, because I know that they've got a specific internship project that they have for planning organizations. I had mentioned it before through Wastelli, the something house.
Oh, Rebel House.
Yes, thank you. My brain's bad today. But I don't know if you had gotten in contact with that project at all, because they could definitely. I'm sure that they have something that they could provide for the internship project.
Yeah, that is good to know. We have had applicants from WSU and UW, so knowing that it's being circulated in the students' brains, but specifically for projects, we can reach out to them.
Absolutely, yeah, and I would be contacting them.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, something else related that has just come to our attention in the last week or so is talks about the potential of ending Eastern Washington University's urban planning program due to budget cuts.
Yeah.
Which would be a significant loss. So they are asking for input related to that consideration. So I can send some information about that, but I know we've had several of our employees that did their undergrad through that program, and it would be a big deal to miss that.
Yeah, please send that information out.
Thank you, Erin, and I second the comment about, being grateful for the subjective criteria. I think that goes a long way towards, building this credibility and community trust, and having that level of transparency.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our grant navigator update, with Kristen.
Good morning, everybody. So I have a few technical assistant updates to give you. We are right now in the process of submitting 3 grants. One for Benton City for their floodplains by design. On March 30th, they will be doing a presentation to the Department of Ecology. We've been meeting weekly to kind of develop that presentation, and then the application will be due the next month. I'm also working with Mid-Columbia Libraries, the Kennewick location. They're going to be submitting a grant for the capital improvement. They have some updates that need to be made. So we had a conversation with the library capital program director, and she said yes, put the application in. They also will be putting in an application next year for the Colotus Library. So wanted to make sure that that wouldn't negate that application. She said absolutely not. So we'll be putting that in April. And then I'm also continuing to work with NISA on their application for revitalizing their Poe Park, which is their one city park that's been overgrown and not usable for the last few years. So in the development of that application as well, and we'll be submitting those next month. And then our next congressional connections meeting will be in April 22nd, and that is between our state elected officials and then the congressional delegates in this area.
Thank you, Kristen.
And one more update. So the congressional direct spending was open for Cantwell's office that closed on March 6th. And then Congressman Newhouse's closed on March 8th. So those were submitted, or excuse me, 15th and 8th. And Murray's is still open right now. So if any of the jurisdictions do want to put in for some capital projects, or direct spending projects, that's March 28th. We could do a letter of support. We submitted 27 individual ones to each of the offices. So please let us know. We'd be happy to write a letter of recommendation.
All right, any questions for Kristen? All right, we'll move to our brownfields program update with Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hopefully this should be pretty quick. Hopefully I'll make it quick. So we've had all of our one-on-one meetings conducted with all of our coalition members. So that includes the city of Richland. We had that on February 11th, the city of Prosser on February 18th, the city of Pinedale on February 19th, and the Tri-County Habitat for Humanity on March 4th. We have received 5 site nominations in the staff report. It says we received 4, but we just got one from Mesa, which is amazing. So we have 2 from Richland, 2 from Prosser, and 1 from the city of Mesa. We've performed 2 site assessments so far. That includes the city of Richland's pilot site. If you haven't seen on the news, it is there. As well as the city of Prosser, their old municipality building that burned down. So those have had 2 site assessments performed. Those were done on February 27th. Part of that is BFCOG had to complete like the due diligence form, and so that is listed on like what its purpose was in your report. Outside of that, the QAP, which is our Quality Assurance Program Project Plan, excuse me, that is anticipated completed by the end of March. I did meet with our EPA rep, so that is actually finalized, which is great. So now we're going to start circulating that for signatures. Once that's done, we can move into our phase 2s, which will be most likely a little bit more digging into what are the actual contaminations at sites. So that'll be exciting. I did attend ACRES training specifically on border reports. That was on March 2nd. I'm still meeting regularly with the EPA as well as our consultants. And our EPA rep Meredith, she said that BFCOG is doing a great job. She's really excited that we've already got 2 phase 1s done and that we already anticipate some phase 2s being done. And it's so early in the project, so big win for BFCOG on that. But yes, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions for Elizabeth? Thank you very much for the update.
Thanks. Last report from me, we had our new board orientation, and recording has been sent out along with the PDF slides to all the board members.
So in case you need a refresher about all things COG, or, you know, you need some light reading for insomnia, either way, it will be available for everybody. Brian, I will actually forward that to you, and Todd, if you're interested, I'm happy to send that to you as well, just for background or sleep aid, either one. So congratulations to Lacey, who presented to 150 people at the AWC Wells City Healthy Worksite Summit about her work on our wellness program. So that was exciting. We had submitted for a Golden Apple Award, and while we were not selected this year, they still asked Lacey to come and talk about our program. So she was the only small program amongst others who have teams of people who get to do their program, and so Lacey does a lot of work for us. We do monthly challenges and different themes for every month and other activities, and so she keeps it really fun for us. So that was a big deal for Lacey to go and give a speech of that kind, but she did a great job. So that was
Good
really
job,
fun.
Lacey.
Yeah.
Thank you. You hold the golden apple in our hearts.
And we'll find one for you.
Maybe we should think about a healthy snack for meetings, and apparently that, you know.
Really kicked it up a notch for my expectations.
Oh, okay, well, way to set the bar. For our hiring process, Erin mentioned the transportation planning intern. We are also hiring for our communications and marketing coordinator role. We have narrowed down an original group of applicants of 31 or 32 down to 14 for phone screens that actually start this afternoon and run through the beginning of next week. So we're really hoping to have that process done in the next 2 to 3 weeks on the outside, and we'll get a communications position on board. So we're pretty excited. Also for operations, I wanted to call this out. We don't always tell you about our professional development things we do internally, but we have a monthly staff internal training and then other things we do to focus on development. But in February, Erin facilitated our first staff training for the year on excellence through accountability, and we use the team's praise and other things to keep ourselves motivated. So, you know, Erin got an awesome for his internal presentation for staff.
Did he get a golden apple too then?
You might get a beautiful blue diamond. Yes. So the 2025 audit prep is underway. Alexis and Lacey have been working on multiple policies and procedure updates, as well as preparing the office for the construction that will happen. We'll give you as board members just a heads up. One of the things we'd like to consider is some new furniture. And so we may have a proposal to come back to the board over the next couple of months about using reserve funds to just replace furniture. We did get a screaming deal on the cubicles and whatnot we have in here. I think we paid $1,500 for somebody's used cubicle set when we moved in here originally. They have been well used over the last 5 years, but they were also well loved before they came to us. So just be prepared, that might be something we talk about. We have had 2 public records requests this quarter, which normally we're lucky if we get 1 or 2 in a whole year. So that has taken a little bit of extra staff time to work on. Both of which are not really directly related to the COG, but we're getting swept up in records requests for other things. One was related to Matt Benke's tenure on our board, because of course he's running for federal office. So, want to make sure nothing shady was going on. And the other is related to a larger regional lawsuit that they're looking for information. So neither of which affect us directly, other than again, takes Lacey and I staff time to go through and comb through records. For outreach and engagement, I facilitated the AMPO Leadership Roundtable earlier this month.
on succession planning as a leadership tool for MPOs. We had roughly 60 executive directors from around the country who tuned in for the webinar, and 3 executive directors from different sizes of MPOs around the country. We decided to make it fun and approached it like a podcast. Where the different directors kind of got to riff off of each other and ask questions. And of course, you can't have a podcast without a sponsor. So we had our Make Believe MPO Juice sponsor for our podcast. I especially may increase policy board meeting productivity, but it was fun. I facilitated the first session of the City of Prosser mission, vision, and core values refresh earlier in the month, and we'll finish that up on April 7th. And Aaron and I got to listen to Skip do his update for the port at the West Richland Chamber. Under partnerships, and this was not part of my report when I submitted it, but as a follow-up from our last board meeting, Aaron Erdman and I have a meeting scheduled next week to talk about that convening around the violent sexual predator housing, even though the immediate threat at Kennewick is past, the need to continue to address that as a region is still there. So we'll have that discussion next week. And then I also submitted a national presentation proposal yesterday to the National Association of Development Organizations about our future 2075 process and how that worked as a means of improving trust and collaboration for our region. So again, if we get selected, we'll let you guys know. The annual regional PFD meeting is April 8th. That meeting I expect to last about 18 minutes, but we have one once a year. So we will have that. We've already talked about the federal partners event. We will have a table at the resource fair. So Lizzie has been working on a couple of really great posters for us to have that describe the COG and what we do. The actual purpose of the event, besides helping to support the event happening, is of course that collaboration. And so as staff, we sat down and talked about what are the things that we really want to make sure that we discuss with our federal partners who may be in attendance. So we're working on some federal briefing papers, one about regional housing strategy and planning. So HUD will be in attendance as well as USDOT. So talking about that and those expectations for MPOs. We will have an ask directed to USDOT about the funding for our Metro Loop study and those future infrastructure projects. Find out if maybe there's any creative way we can identify funds for that. A general feedback related to just need for improved guidance that comes down from USDOT, and the same related to EDA, where we are thanking them for the administrative adjustments that they've made that has reduced the amount of time and reporting that we have to do, which is amazing, but also talking about some of the unintended consequences of the changes for the matching for the PPP program that we've talked about at the last couple of meetings, and just the lack of information that's trickling down between administrative focus changes that have changed EDA's focus areas and how that's getting communicated down to agencies. So we are working on those documents feverishly, so we have them by Thursday. In your packet, there's a copy of the letter sent by all of the state economic development districts that we signed on to the State Department of Commerce. They are getting ready to embark on a state economic development strategic plan, asking that the economic development districts be included. Generally, Commerce kind of focuses that engagement to their area development organizations like TRIDEC, and doesn't necessarily
don't necessarily engage with us as the EDDs. We received a response within an hour of the letter being received, saying, yes, we'd love to have the EDDs be involved, and here's how we can start getting you connected. So that was hopeful. And then also the Washington Economic Development Association, their summer conference is being held in Tri-Cities in August. Mandy Waldner with City of Richland is on the board for WIDA and is convening a committee of local members to help with planning for tours and other activities for that event. So Kristen will be serving on that committee for us to help show up strongly for Tri-Cities this summer. We still have not heard back on our PPP application for EDA. That's not surprising. The last time we had a renewal, I think we finally got authorization 2 weeks into the new term of the new grant. So definitely not anything to be concerned about, but we are still waiting. All right, and that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And we have no new business for this meeting, so we'll go ahead and move to item 12 and open the floor for updates from our directors present here at the meeting. Does anybody have news to report back from their jurisdiction?
I did receive an email
Yes,
from
good morning, everybody. Charles.
Yes.
No, you're good. Sorry. Charles again from Pasco. Just wanted to say, just an update. Senator Tories is getting her bill signed. Actually, let me rephrase that. Governor Bob Ferguson is in Yakima. I think they're starting it at 1 o'clock. Doors open today. They're signing at 1:30 at the Pacific Northwest University of Health Sciences on the Parkway there in Yakima. They're signing kind of all of the regional bills. The one that's kind of really directly related to us is Senator Tories' Senate Bill number 6066, which has to do with the crash zones. That obviously it's not a long-term fix to our problems that we're having. Leaving Pasco north on the 395 and also out here by US 12 and 8th Street or whatever, but it is a step in the right direction. Acknowledging these intersections are very dangerous and at least helping us to raise some funds in the meantime till we can get longer term solutions there. So not sure anybody's going to be able to make it there, but direction for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Gunn.
We did receive Mayor Burton. He had to leave before the end of the meeting, but said the flood forecast for this weekend is changing rapidly and numbers are very different from yesterday. Sorry, I needed to skip out of the end of the meeting.
Oh, changing in a.
I know. We don't know. They are.
There's been preliminary forecasts that it's trending in the wrong direction, so flooding is anticipated. With the amount of snow and rainfall that happened last week and then temperatures in the 70s this week, it's creating not the best circumstances.
Yeah. Is there anything we should be aware of as a body in terms of our emergency responsiveness or?
I believe Brian gave a good overview last month, and the TAC members talked about it as well, but there's been some changes at the federal process, and I will do my best to get this correct, but there's been a lot of the times with FEMA, it has been, so if a road gets washed out, jurisdictions will pay up front to get it fixed so they can get everything going right away. But now FEMA has asked for a lot of halting of that process, so there's been that has slowed a lot of things. For example, there was a highway in Natchez that got rerouted next to an elementary school because they had to halt work. And the view of it was, oh, it's great, there's a detour. However, it's right next to an elementary school, so you're having a state highway go next to an elementary school. So that's been one thing that could be anticipated, or we'll see how well the repairs happen from the last flooding.
Have all the repairs been completed from the last funding?
I would ask the jurisdictions.
Richland, Like the hell of a week to go to St. Louis.
Yeah, it seems like such a short time ago that we had the
Yeah.
last split, and so it's unfortunate that the storm coincided with that quick warm up.
Well, hopefully people will be able to move more rapidly since they might know in advance that this is possibly coming down the line. So that we can help folks evacuate from those areas sooner, just as a preemptive.
Yeah. Get their animals.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Commissioner Gordon, that sounds very Batman every time I say that, but. I did see a press release come out.
Yes.
This morning about requesting support for TSA agents at the airport, and didn't know if you wanted to mention that, or I can mention it either way.
You can go ahead and mention it. I talked to Buck the other day, and he, during the last government shutdown, had worked with several of the agencies and banks and on helping the agents get through the shutdown. So he's doing the same thing this time, and he said that they all seem to be doing all right. So what did you hear?
Well, a press release was circulated this morning, asking for support, from the community. There are 56 TSA agents. And so specifically, they're looking for donations of gas or food cards to kind of help offset the fact that those 56 agents are, still working without pay over at the airport. And so as a way for the community to show support for that. So I just saw that before we came into our board.
Okay, yeah. He had mentioned the gas cards and the food cards and how much they appreciate that, and also that some of the banks are forgiving mortgage payments if they can. So
They're continuing to work and operations are still running normally at the airport.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm flying out tomorrow, so I'll have an up close and personal report after that.
Okay.
Let me know how it goes, because I'm flying out Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. I might have to bring some DoorDash with me on the way.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Any other director updates? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 11:46.
I'll ask her. I'll ask Michelle.